Okay, everyone, going to talk about and react to things about Ash's creation today. I want to talk about this because I was waiting for this game for a long time. Most people started getting suspicious about this game like a good couple of years ago. Some people actually, a small amount of people, maybe like 5%, about a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago, maybe max four. I knew this game was going off the rails about 6 years ago. I knew it was going bad, and I want to talk about some of this stuff today. So let's read this. Okay, so let's get this straight. Ashes of Creation former CEO Stephen Sharif bankrupt the company on purpose after 10 years of having not put a single dollar into his company. Yeah, he said that he funded this game to completion before the project even started. So, if this is the case, that whole thing was a complete lie. AOC was spending 2.5 million per month to burn a month and burn in 2025. And 1 million per year was salaries to himself and his husband throughout the duration of the project. But he wasn't keeping up with his mortgage on his home and was at risk of having a bank foreclosure in his house. Right, this seems like horseshit as well because this guy was known to be rich when he played sorry, Ash's Creation. When he played the arcade way back, he used to spend like tens of thousands on the game and like buying people to like basically worship him, to basically be his servants, etc. He like basically bought players in the game to like work for him. He's known to have had like a mansion and a big house and like lots of money for a long time. He comes from a rich family of scammer pyramid schemers, right? And yeah, he's known to have had property that he makes money from for a long time before starting this project. So let me just make sure this is still recording. Yeah, it's okay, great. Because yeah, my thing keeps disconnecting. Sorry. Let me check something. Yeah, the fight, the default. Wait, is this recording my voice? Okay, yeah, it's great. I wish someone was here to see if they could hear me. Yeah, anyway, it says in almost losing his house, Stephen begged his primary investors for money to secure a loan that he couldn't pay and put 1.3 million into an escrow account for his home loan. Again, I don't think this is real. I don't think he had a home loan. I'm pretty sure he just owned his home. When ALC's track record of insolvency wasn't improving, the primary investor of Intrepid, 80 million, said he was taking over and tried to take was taking over and tried to make Stephen the creative director with an earn-out plan. They were to lay off 50 to 70% of staff but save the game business. Right. We know there is no other board of directors besides him, so there shouldn't even be an investor to begin with. The investment was the Kickstarter backers and this, like the paid digital stuff he's been selling all this time, so there can't be any investor. That's got to be horseshit. Therefore, making this line horseshit. When, no, when negotiations failed, Stephen notified the bank holding his home loan of the income stream funds from the EA launch and instructed them to write a letter to Valve claiming 3.7 million of sales money. What? Yeah, this all just seems like nonsense. It all seems like complete lies to get out of basically him running away with the money. This did three things. Technically fulfilled the obligation of launching the game with the backers. Yeah, They said people would get all their money back if the game launched, and this was technically a quote unquote launch. This is basically just to get out of the legal obligations and run away with the money. Securing the funds released the 1.3 million from escrow of personal money, and the bank was holding to secure from his home loan. That money was intended to pay payroll on February 1st. When the money vaporized due to the bank's claim, they had no choice but to close the business and send out warn notifications that's why it came so late. Yeah, none of this really just makes any kind of sense. What I think, let me finish this and I'll say what I think. Stephen's unethical board was him refusing to take a step away from the control seat. Yeah, and the letter to the bankrupted, the letter that to the letter to the bank bankrupt. This guy needs to learn how to use commas. The letter to the bank bankrupted the company. Stephen Schiff literally caused Intrepid Studios Anxious Creations to burn his own hand and walk away from business. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay, this is all nonsense. What really happened was, right, he did not fund the game to completion. He underestimated how much it would take. Ah, okay, hi there, MP. He underestimated how much it would take for this game to be made. And so he started burning off money far more than his normal earnings per month and started to panic. So he started selling vaporware basically to fund the game, in my opinion. And then when even that wasn't enough and he was spending too much money and didn't know how to manage his employees, and so the game wasn't getting completed, and even after 10 years when nothing was done, I think he just panicked and done a run over the money. I don't think he was any kind of good leader and just couldn't make this game. People say don't blame the developers, but I also think we should blame the developers as well, because I think at some point they should have went up to him and went, right, mate, it's been 10 years, we've basically done nothing. I think we need to like start taking control and like doing some things, stepping up. Like everyone in this company could have done more. At some point you need to stand up to your boss and say like, what is going on here? What are we doing? And start saying some things in public, you know? It's just nonsense. People are always like, oh, but the devs are innocent. Are they innocent? They were basically going along this whole. They were basically presenting a game that was basically almost done, even though they knew also that it wasn't. So I'm going to go against the popular grain here and say that's also nonsense. Right, I also want to react to this video. I think it's this one. Yeah.
So just about everyone knew that lapsed alongside its studio just 2 weeks after launch. And now we're starting to get reports and testimonials from investors involved. And if all of that information is true, this is all far worse than we could have possibly imagined. So I'm going to give you the TLDR versions right here, summarized by a couple individuals. Jay Oddity tweeted the following recently: Ashes of Creation drama goes nuclear as the new owners sue Stephen J. Sheriff. And the law.
Sharif, come on, dude. By the way, yeah, sorry, my fucking model's broken. I think it's really the camera on my laptop that's broken. I'm going to need to fix it at some point. But I don't want to be like, oh, let's prepare more, because I never make these videos, I never do these reactions. I need to just do stuff and stop endlessly trying to prepare things, you know? Because I'm never going to get anything done that way.
Lawsuit they claim Stephen was, and for those who don't know, Stephen Sheriff is the creative director of Ashes of Creation and the individual who
What the J stood for, fucking jackass, gigolo.
spearheaded the entire project. The lawsuit claims that Stephen was effectively embezzling funds, taking money from investors for his own use, mixing business and personal funds, bought a property with Intrepid's funds, but when sold, personally kept the money, used loans as revenue to get bigger loans. This is all obviously just allegations.
This is allegations, but again, this guy has a history of being like a. This guy comes from a family of pyramid schemers. He's ran pyramid schemes in the past, and his whole like a lot of his business and the the game creation was a bit of an LMM. Now I don't think LMMs are always that bad. technically what he was suggesting really had no negatives if it had benevolent intent, but it didn't have benevolent intent, so it just was basically turned to this shit greed. Oh, cool, Tom Tom. Hope you had a fun walk with your dog.
At the moment and are not proven. The lawsuit is TFE Game Holdings versus Stephen J. Sheriff and John Moore. Another bombshell happened when an Ashes of Creation investor, Jason Karamanis, spoke with YouTuber Nefis QS. He appeared to share private texts and conversations surrounding the game. The texts appear to show many years of Stephen and Jason talking with Stephen, appearing to somewhat love bomb Jason when asking for investment. We await Stephen's side of the story, but this all seems incredibly messy at the moment. One investor is said to have lost upwards of $90 million.
I honestly don't know what to believe. Is this like actually true? Again, we have seen legal documentation of the board of directors, and he's the only board member. So either these investors did not put themselves on the board for some beneficent reason, which I honestly can't really believe. Someone with that kind of money just doesn't do that. So I think this is all horseshit. I don't believe any of this, honestly.
And then here's another.
It doesn't make any logical sense.
The one
possible, but it's highly improbable.
That is a little longer, but provides even more details about what we're learning based on recent reports. Okay, says One Peg. Let me get this straight. Ashes of Creation former CEO Stephen Sheriff bankrupted the company on purpose after 10 years having not put.
I already read all this, so. Wait, did they? No, wait, that's not, yeah.
All backers in full. And the promise was that Stephen Sheriff had personal funds aside specifically meant to refund Kickstarter backers in case Ashes of Creation does not launch. It technically did launch now in early access in a woefully unfinished state, so he can now say that this promise was technically fulfilled. Stephen can now say he doesn't owe anyone refunds because the game did launch, which puts the early access launch in a negative light. It doesn't seem like it was about trying to release a version of the game.
It wasn't even an early access launch. An early access is usually at least a game that's about 40% complete, maybe even 50. This game was like 5% complete, and what was there was a buggy mess. Either this was a pure scam, or this guy was a total ultra giga dipshit that could not manage his team and make a game. I think he actually did want to make the game, and it wasn't a complete scam because he did play Arcade and clearly wanted to be in an MMO where he could like lord over everyone as like a kind of god. So this would be like a fantasy for him. I think it just didn't complete because he was too worthless of a leader to do it. Basically, people underestimate a good leader, and people are always like, "Oh, it's all the workers," blah 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 blah. Honestly, a good leader makes all the difference. Truly. When you have a good leader, everything goes to shit, no matter how competent the people underneath are. But yeah. Yep, this isn't really in 2026, Tom Tom. It's more like over many years. But if you mean the Epstein stuff, then yeah, I guess that stuff's been happening. But that stuff's also been happening for about 3 decades. I actually was talking about that decades ago, but no one listened to me. Everyone said I was crazy, but I guess I was fucking right. I said it when it wasn't popular.
That was still viable and get feedback from users. It felt like the early access was rushed out to fulfill this promise amidst this entire situation of Stephen Sheriff seemingly scamming the community as well as the investors involved in Ashes of Creation and also the developers he hired to work on this game who poured their hearts into it. So that's one of the things Stephen's alleged deception did. Number 2, securing the funds released the $1.3 million from escrow of personal money that the bank was holding.
You guys still not fucking done reading this? Hurry up, jeez. Let's go to 6.5 minutes.
Here comes true. The first video is 1 hour and 19 minutes and 41 seconds long. The second one is 1 hour and 43 minutes and 57 minutes long. Yeah, there is a lot of information to go through, but what these videos do is not only highlight the individuals who are accusing Stephen
What's a big world, Tom? There's always going to be something happening.
Sheriff of essentially fraud, in particular, one investor who decided to leak all this information to provide evidence. These videos also present the actual receipts to ensure that, these claims aren't unsubstantiated. The description of these videos, the first one here reads, "Exclusive bombshell report. I've obtained private legal and financial documents from a primary Ashes of Creation investor who I met with through video calls and emails after confirming their identity. The documents detail
By the way, I hope this isn't too quiet, this video. It's probably fine.
a debt of over 150 million US dollars with over 380 pages of text messages exchanged between Stephen Sheriff and the investor that gives us a better timeline of what may have happened behind the scenes at Intrepid Studios from 2014, 3 years before the Kickstarter even launched, to 2026. In the second video, that's an hour and 43 minutes and 57 seconds long, Jason speaks directly with Nefis QS. The second video right here is actually a direct interview with Jason Karamenis, and this video's description reads, "After obtaining private legal and financial documents from a primary Ashes of Creation investor, he calls us while we're live streaming to give us further details on how Stephen Sheriff, CEO of Intrepid Studios, stole the payroll from employees. He also details how Stephen actually quote-unquote resigned and answers people's questions." If you want the most detailed summary and account of these two videos, WCCF Tech here did a tremendous job with the following article titled "Ashes of Creation Investor Alleges Founder Orchestrated a $140 million fraud." And scrolling down here, you can see that this article kind of presents the entire timeline in full detail. All of the investors involved, all of the investors who felt like they were screwed over, all of Stephen Sheriff's actions that resulted in the downfall, in the collapse of Ashes of Creation, as well as Intrepid Studios as a whole, his selfish actions, his manipulations, and straight up him stealing money and engaging in what looks to be almost like embezzlement, as well as straight up running with money.
Let's see this. This is what I kind of thought, honestly, but let's take a quick look at some of this. One thing that I kind of look down on everyone for, and people keep saying this, he said he funded the project to completion at the start, but he just said that, and people still say, well, people still say, well, he put a lot of his own money into it, so it can't have been a scam. But it's not like there's literally no documentation of this. He just claimed it. He just said it. There was no proof whatsoever, and there still isn't. So I have no idea why people keep talking like he's actually officially done this, because he's definitely not. Yeah, they waste a lot of money from the vaporware. Basically, the skins and shit didn't exist. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. He was in pyramid schemes before. No governance, yeah. Application of escrows, tax returns. Yeah, there's no documentation of a lot of this stuff or any of it. Only the stuff that needs to be public, which is like the names and registrations of like the board of directors, the staff, the employees, the wage slips and things. Only those things exist, but not actually where he got his money from, and like the payment from like the vaporware he sold, because it wasn't really done in official channels the way they charge for it all. What is, yeah, let's talk about the mansion. He was living in the mansion and his employees were as well. Yeah, they're talking shit. See, how could you even if you had a mortgage rate, I actually wouldn't blame someone using a bit of the funds to pay off their mortgage, because I mean, you gotta make sure you're stable first before you work in the game stability. And a guy that's a scammer like this, right, would definitely do this. So the fact he's saying, oh, but the mortgage made us lose all the money for the game, that's horseshit. No mortgage is that big. It's just an excuse for him to run with the money. That's what this is. Once more. Dawson. I'm not sure these investors are even real. I'm really not. If they were, there's no physical documents of them. Let me read what guys are saying. It's a bit too loud now, is that okay? So I was right in my original settings. Hang on. Let me just back down to 7.4. There we go. That should be fine. Yeah, don't worry, Pixie. I'm going to be streaming every single day from now on, every day. I mean it. I got a plan for it. I'm going to do lazy reaction to videos. I'm going to work on some big projects, but I'm going to do at least 1 hour a day on reactions just to keep myself in a routine and like, because everyone's doing that shit. And honestly, I think I'm at least smarter than these people that do them. Most of them are just a bunch of idiots and don't like the stuff they say. The people reacting to this, many of the people talking about it are just completely ignoring so many of the like people listen to the claims this guy makes, even though he's made contrary claims in the distant past, and they don't seem to register it. I mean, some of them do okay, but most of them are just making very foolish examinations of this case. And even though they have a lot better technical preparation than me, they don't have the wisdom to parse through this, I think. Well, I don't know how to set all this shit up. I need to really learn how to do all this advanced video setting up and all that. Destiny, yep. Final Betrayal. Robert Dawson. Let's listen to this more.
Invested by investors who believed in Stephen Sheriff's promise in an MMORPG project that would redefine the genre, that would garner a huge fan base, and that would make these investors a lot of money. It's also worth noting that all of this completely contradicts what Stephen Sheriff has consistently touted throughout the years of Ashes of Creation's development, which was that it was completely self-funded, and that according to this statement right
yeah, there you go. So many people don't even mention this and seem to just take the modern crap he's saying as if it's actually true.
Here directly from Stephen, we aren't governed by greedy corporate overlords. I'm funding the project, so no investors or a board to answer to, no publishers to appease. We speak with, not to, our community, and we actually listen to feedback and value and respect our players. As it turns out, there were, in fact, investors. There was some kind of board to answer.
No, this is what you're assuming. There was, in fact. There wasn't, in fact. There's no legal fucking documentation of it. It's just more claims. I think that this is the lie to run away with the money and put the blame on someone else.
Answer to, and that would be these investors that Stephen kind of dragged by the nose for the longest time before jumping ship, when Stephen himself allegedly sunk the ship in order to be able to get away with millions in money. And Stephen claims right here, I'm funding the project. And this isn't the only time Stephen claimed this. He very publicly stated so via the following interview from July 18th, 2018 with New.
Here's the thing, right? See if these investors existed, okay? If they existed, when he made these claims, they would have came out and said, no, that's not true. We're actually funding it. They would have had many chances over 10 years to do this. So I don't believe these investors are real.
News outlet PC Games N. When asked about how this game is being funded, he straight up said that the vast majority of the project has been paid for personally by the CEO. But based on what investors' testimonials and documentations reveal, he didn't put a single penny personally into this project. That apparently was a complete and utter lie. People believe in Stephen Sheriff because he was involved with this company called Zango, who engages in multi-level marketing. Apparently he made millions off of that. And one of the biggest concerns surrounding this project was the fact that the creative director was involved in multi-level marketing, which is often considered to be a really controversial way of doing business. It's seen as basically pyramid scheme-esque. It is deemed to be in many ways like a scam, or at least a very like scummy and manipulative and deceptive way of doing business. So that history alone kind of
I don't think MLMs, pyramid schemes are bad, but I don't actually think MLMs are bad on the face of them. It's just always bad people that use them because of the way they think. Like, because a good person doing that might feel like they're manipulating someone, but truly, if you don't like fuck the people doing it, MLM doesn't really hurt anyone. If anything, it just benefits people besides yourself. I'll explain after the video.
cropping up early on when the Kickstarter campaign launched gave people a lot of pause and made people very suspicious about this project. And the funny part about all this is that PC Gamer called it all the way back in June of 2017 in this article titled, "There's Something Strange About Kickstarter's Most Successful MMO." This was after Ashes of Creation's Kickstarter campaign launched on May 1st, 2017, and after it became the most successful Kickstarter MMO, with a campaign having earned over $3.2 million from almost 20,000 backers, and would also earn more money thereafter. Among the things that PC Gamer highlighted was the fact that Stephen Sheriff was involved with multi-level marketing, and PC Gamer aptly highlights here that the multi-level...
To be clear, I've known this for 6 years. I told people on that Discord about it 6 years ago. And I actually said things, I said the exact words of, okay, fine, maybe he's not scamming, but don't you guys think this is at least something to consider? Don't you think it's at least a bit suspicious? And I got so much shit from all these people in Discord. No one would even that fair when I was coming at it so timidly. I was like, shouldn't we at least think about it? Isn't this like... And I was like, well... I mean, I started like questioning Stephen himself on the Discord, just challenging him in front of everybody, like atting him, like blah blah blah, telling him all this bullshit, like you better not be scamming people. Why are you doing this? Why are you charging for all this vaporware? Stood up to him, and he gave me this kind of company line, but not like one person was like, oh, that's pretty admirable, you're standing up to him about this stuff. Everyone was just being the herd hive mind. No, it's not a scam, you're a liar, you're just negative, why, we've seen all this, blah blah blah. There was so many signs here for like years. There was like so many signs, right? And while they didn't definitively prove to a scam, right, or even that the game was fake, they should at least have, people should at least have went, you know what, I don't think it's, these people could at least have said, you know what, I don't think this is a scam, but you make a fair point, and this is very fair info, and like it's not exactly an unfair perspective to take, because it's a lot of strange stuff looking here, a lot of strange things not adding up. But no one done that. Not one person stopped for a minute. Everybody was on like a mad frenzy on that server, constantly. They were constantly in a frenzy. By the way, if you're worried about the speed of this video, I'll skip some stuff ahead, just so we're not... I don't think we need to look at all of it, but we'll just go a wee bit ahead. But yeah. Everyone would, yeah. I'm not, to be honest, I wanted this game as well. I'm not laughing. I don't want to gloat or whatever. It's not about gloating. It's about criticising humanity and to say that, guys, like, when is this going to stop in the human race? Human race always does this. They always become a herd mob mentality. And it needs to stop for their own sake, for all our own sakes, because it just lets the elite rule you. It's just always been that way. Like the same with the Epstein stuff, I called it out years and years. I actually called it out 15 years before it came to light. And I got banned off like every single platform for doing it, like Reddit and fucking Facebook and MySpace way back and blah blah blah. And some other places, wink wink, and like I was fucking right. It's like they're their own worst enemies. They're always the pawns of the elite because they can't just stop and accept maybe something isn't good because it hurts their heart too much, and it's just comes up with this crap every single time.
People brought up and that brought a lot of suspicions surrounding this entire project were incredibly warranted. Many people fear that Stephen Sheriff was actually a huge scammer based on his multi-level marketing background, and based on these recent reports, if true, It seemed as though there's a good reason why he succeeded in the multi-level marketing business. It may very well be that for Steven Sheriff, this entire thing was basically a long con. And I mean, when you look at all of the contradictions, the fact that there are these major investors at all, when Steven Sheriff consistently stated that there are no investors in this project whatsoever, that there's complete autonomy here, that Steven Sheriff himself is funding this project, when there's evidence potentially that Steven Sheriff did not invest a single dollar into this project, that alone already casts an incredibly suspicious light on Steven Sheriff. But then investors being as adamant as they are and presenting all of the documentation and all of the messages, the text messages that they exchanged, and all of it highlighting like seemingly very clear evidence of full on like fraud, one of the biggest and most egregious cases of fraud in gaming history. Yeah, none of this looks good for Steven Sheriff. We still have to hear Steven Sheriff.
It's fucking Sharif, for God's sake. We've known his name for 10 years. To get it right, Jesus. Ugh.
Side of the story to get the full picture, but it's hard to know if his word can be trusted or if he can provide documentation himself to contradict what investors are presenting. But again, the existence of these investors at all already makes Steven Sheriff. I can make a limited statement in my personal capacity and not on behalf of the company regarding the situation. Control of the company shifted away from me, and the board began directing actions that I could not ethically agree with or carry out. As a result, I chose to resign and protest rather than lend my name or authority to.
He's such a cocksucker. Yeah, you didn't resign in protest and there was no board. You fucking ran with the money, and I also starting to think these other people, these so-called investors, are just also actors that are basically making it look like it's fair enough that he lost control.
Decisions I could not ethically support. Following my resignation, much of the senior leadership team resigned. Following those departures, the board made the decision to issue Warrant Act notices and proceed with a mass layoff.
Be clear, by the way, about this guy. People might be thinking, oh, maybe there actually was investors so you could steal their money because he couldn't fund this himself. But actually, this guy has always been rich for a long time. This guy has been mega rich for a long time. Again, he comes from a family of pyramid schemers. He's been doing pyramid schemes. He's earned lots from them. So you'd think, oh, but why didn't he just buy this mansion himself instead of using the funds? Because see, he was raised by pyramid schemers. See, people will get like this. You're looking at them through your own human logic, as if you're like, oh, but why would you take the risk? Like, why would you do this? You know, you have so much money. Why would you do this? But they operate from a different type of like core and childhood. First of all, right, if you as a random person got rich, you'd be like, oh, I made it. I'm like rich and powerful. I have achieved all that I can in life, right? But see, if you're born rich, okay, then money means very little to you. And in fact, the only reason way you can prove yourself is by getting richer and proving you can like scam the lower class of like people to show you're capable of manipulation and Machiavellian genius, and proving you can get more money than the other rich people so you can like establish yourself. It's a way to like achieve something in your life. And also, just like people who have been like policemen all their lives, or they've been like firemen all their lives, or maybe somebody's raised like in a situation to become an assassin and they get free but they just can't stop doing it. These people can't really do anything else. Like, this guy was raised by his mother to be a pyramid scheme like manipulator. That's all he can do. That's who he is. It's like that old philosophical poem where there's I believe it's the scorpion and the frog, and the scorpion says to the frog, I need to get across the river. I can't go myself. I'm a scorpion. I'll drown. And I need you to carry me across so we can both get across the river and be safe. I'll protect you on the way. And the frog says, oh, but you'll sting me. You'll kill me. And I was like, I wouldn't kill you. Why would I kill you? I'll drown if I sting you. I need to get across the river as well. And he's like, well, okay. So the frog starts going across the river with the scorpion on his back, and he gets halfway across the river, and the scorpion stings him, and they both start to drown. And when they're both drowning, the frog looks up to the scorpion and says, "Why did you sting me?" And the scorpion says, "I'm a scorpion. It was in my nature. I can't change my nature." That's the same thing with this. This guy was raised to be this. He can't do anything else. This is just like his going to work, basically. You just go to work every day, or you're a basketball player. You get up and you practice basketball, and then you go in the league and start doing your job. When you go home, you practice it. You think about it. You watch sports about it. You study other people's moves to learn more about it. This is just who he is. He's always been a man who manipulates others. It's what he was raised to be, and that's why he kept doing it. And he would do it. See, after this is done, years later, he would do it somewhere else. That's just who he is. That's his nature.
I cannot responsibly speak to further details at this time due to ongoing legal and governance matters. What I can say is that the developers and staff acted in good faith and deserve better than the uncertainty they're now facing. I'm incredibly dismayed by the situation, claims Stephen.
Yeah, it's not about logic. There is no logic about it. He's taking risks with his freedom every time he does this. He's already rich. It's about ego, proving his intellect, and just what he basically is, as well as he's been raised as. So let's go to the last page. I think he's at the last part here. He's reading that page we were going to read. Human cost. Final betrayal. Yeah. I'll read this part and then I'll see what he says about the human cost. So the final betrayal. By January 2026, Robert Dawson. By the way, did you all understand that? I can sometimes speak a bit fast. Did it come through clearly? By January 2026, Robert Dawson had reached his breaking point. Having invested 80 million with no return and facing continued operational losses, he initiated what Karamanis described as a reasonable restructuring plan. The proposal called for 70 to 60% of staff layoffs to make the company financially sustainable. If there was other people, maybe he was quote unquote hiring them to get more money in so they could steal more. A new funding round requiring all existing investors to contribute 25% of their previous investment to maintain equity. A new role for Sharif as creative director with earnout based equity tied to company performance rather than immediate ownership. Yeah, so if this is true, which I'm not sure that it is, they'd basically be saying you need to perform and show you're actually achieving shit and not just getting money for nothing. And if this is the case, he's flat out refused, meaning he just wants to keep scamming, and this is taking control away from him, and that's what really made him angry and quit. He's now no longer dominating people, having Machiavellian joy, controlling and taking from people. I think that's what this was really about. So if this is the case, then he's going to flee this project, wait a couple of years, and then set up another one for his own personal Machiavellian joy. Like he gets like pleasure from doing this. It's about the joy of it. And hopefully in modern day, if people are wondering, oh, people aren't like this, well, again, you know what they're doing in the Epstein files. They weren't just basically raping children. They were doing way worse than that. Like it wasn't human understanding of sexuality. It was like they were. I don't really want to talk about what they're doing, but like people know what they're doing. Really dark stuff for joy. So people can enjoy really dark stuff. I'm not sure that's too true, Tom. Honestly, there's a lot of legit ways you can make money. That, to be honest, I could probably done some more if I was just not depressed. But I'm working on that now. Anyway, entirely. Between approximately January 26th and 31st, Sharif resigned as creative director and executed what Karamis calls an act of sabotage. Had the Commerce Bank sent a letter to Valve claiming Steam revenue from December early access launch. Oh yeah, he tried to steal the money they earned from the game basically instead of giving any of it to the other investors, if that's the case. Earned had been earmarked for February 1st payroll. This money was instead used to pay off Commerce Bank's loan secured to Sharif's house. What a cocksucker, releasing 3 to 1.6 million in escrow to him personally. Seizure of funds left the company unable to make payroll and effectively bankrupted it. Karamis portrays Stevens' seizure of the Steam revenue as deliberate act of sabotage. Yeah, this is destroying the company rather than accepting the performance-based compensation proposed by the main investor Robert Dawson. Yeah, so he could have just actually basically tried to make the game at that point. Like, and he had, yeah, maybe he didn't even want the game, or maybe what I actually think is I think he actually wanted the game, but he was so caught up in his duplicitous, again, like I said, scorpion nature, that he couldn't actually do the logical things needed to actually make it happen. He was too addicted to manipulation, too addicted. It's like his vice, basically. It's like so many of these rich, powerful people, it's like a vice to them. It's not just something that you can choose to do. It's not even just like Machiavellianism deploying a type of logic to gain something. It is partially, but it's also like an addiction, like a trait they cannot control. So I think he wanted this game, but he wanted it while also sabotaging it to the maximum because he was addicted to doing it. Basically, he wanted it to work out whilst also being this level of insane. He couldn't do it. He couldn't because he couldn't do anything else. He couldn't make the choice to do anything else because it's like it's like most people are addicted to like the internet these days. Like they want to stop using the internet so much and like or not having like a billion tabs open, but they just can't do it. This guy is like addicted to his evil, basically. And let's react to him reading this next part.
Money how he wanted. That's why he destroyed everything for money. And if you saw my previous reportings on
I don't think it was just, again just for money, but also his nature.
this whole situation, you will know that the WARN Act letter indicated that recent payroll period cannot be met by Intrepid Studios. And allegedly, it wasn't because Stephen Sheriff didn't have the means to actually pay payroll. It was because he decided to use that money for his own purposes, for his own personal needs, to pay off his own personal mansion. But yeah, I mean, I would highly recommend reading through this entire article.
Because that's the thing. This is a kind of a proof of it, that you wanted to pay off the mansion with the funds, but you also kept, even though he could have done that this whole time, he wanted to keep the loan going because the loan means he's scamming the bank as well. Because he has the money to buy this mansion, he's always had the money for it. This guy has at least 100 million in his bank account. A billionaire, right? So there's no way he doesn't have this money, and he could have paid off the bank loan at the very start of the project with all the millions he'd made over this time. But he held it on, kept it loaned for so long because that means he is taking money out of the bank's wallet as well. It's about constantly scamming and taking from everyone. It's an addiction, it's a vice.
Article to get the full timeline of events, to get the real specifics, including all of the investors and parties involved who felt like they were frauded. Now, it's worth highlighting that a lot of the people that Stephen Sheriff received investment fund were themselves multi-level marketing entrepreneurs. Jason Karamanis himself is a 57-year-old multi-level marketing entrepreneur who made his fortune primarily through Junice Global, a Florida-based anti-aging skincare and supplements multi-level marketing company where
yeah, that one they're talking about apparently like gave people cancer and stuff. So yeah.
He achieved the rank of Imperial Diamond Director. Ugh. And alongside that, he also joined other multi-level marketing companies over the years, and in the video acknowledges being at the top of the pyramids. Like, yeah, MLM is practically another form of pyramid scheme. And with Karamanis in particular, he apparently invested, or rather lost now, $12.5 million of his own money by investing in Ashes of Creation and believing in Sheriff's empty promises. And Stephen Sheriff himself not only never invested a single penny into Intrepid Studios, despite publicly claiming having contributed between $30 to $60 million over the years. But beyond that, he actually took money from the company, with him and his partner John Moore consistently and systematically having withdrawn $500,000 per year in salary payments. As a couple, Stephen Sheriff and John Moore took $1 million a year from the company and just gave it to themselves. The article further details here.
Yeah, that's also why I'm not sure if this is even true. Like, part of it, like he might have been wanting to scam them as well. But again, they're also MLM guys, like I was saying at the very start. So I'm not sure they are like I think that what people really wanted to scam was the audience. Now maybe he scammed them as well, right? But it would fit with his pattern. But again, they're also MLM guys. Maybe he just scammed them, so he has no loyalty also to them. But I get the feeling that they're of the same ilk as him, and so they're just like making this up to basically, how would you put this? Well, I'll let the video continue.
That while the public report suggested the company had raised between $109 million and $115 million, Karamanis claims that the actual figure approaches $140 million when accounting for Kickstarter funds, Commerce Bank loans, PPP loans, and various private investments, all of whom were completely screwed over and blindsided by this. This is a $140 million fraud case if all of these accusations turn out to be true. Now, another investor is Tom Alkazin, who invested $2 million, much of it which was earned through MLM or multi-level marketing. So Stephen Sheriff got a lot of his multi-level marketing folks and people who got rich off of that to invest in his seemingly scheme. Apparently, at one point, this investor, Alkazin, settled with the Federal Trade Commission to pay $1.2 million, with a larger judgment of over $6.7 million partially suspended, alongside a forfeiture of 1.61 acres in San Marcos, California. Alkazin was also permanently banned from engaging in pyramid schemes and any future multi-level marketing activities. So it seemed as though Alkazin himself was found guilty of basically being
Okay. Okay. This is connecting a thread I might not have understood. Maybe this guy was also in on it, but he wanted to do it. Like I said, they're addicted to it, so he wanted to do it through Stephen because he couldn't do it anymore himself. So that's what I was saying. I was like, this doesn't make sense. But even though I was saying that I don't believe that what they're saying is real, the quote unquote investors, but at the same time, it doesn't make sense for them to lie. Now it makes sense. Yeah. So I think this is what happened. Okay. This guy couldn't do his own scams anymore, and desperate to do so, he made a deal with Stephen to do a scam through Stephen because he's not got that legal backlash now. And now, if he makes himself look like he's someone he was scammed by Stephen and look like a benevolent person who's coming to the rescue, he can he can look like the hero and maybe get some alleviation of his own previous crimes and get the ban taken off of him. You understand? So Stephen might be actually ironically playing the enemy so he can get his black mark taken off his record. Like, I was just the innocent investor, but they're all in it together. Now that makes sense. And there was a contradiction in my logic, but even though I was right in fishing out I was fishing out, but I was like, but this doesn't make sense in my logic, even though this does seem to be the case. And this is what pulls it together. They're all in this together, and they're all basically trying to like Stephen's taking the hit in a partial look more benevolent, so he can then again take the black mark off his legal record and start becoming a scammer again. But it won't be completely provable, so he can you know what I'm saying? They're basically doing this, but also neither of them can commit to it because none of them have honor, and they just don't know how to be completely honest about anything.
A schemer, like a con artist, basically. Again, it just feels like Stephen Sheriff was like the ultimate con artist and took advantage of other con artists. But yeah, apparently the $2 million that Tom Alkazin invested, a 70-something family friend, apparently that was basically the life savings of Tom Alkazin and his wife. So even among schemers and con artists, it seemed as though Stephen Sheriff is like a level above.
No, that's what they want us to think. That's what they want us to think. So they look like victims. Yeah. And eventually, maybe at one point, right, those other two guys will get the black mark taken off their record, how they were innocent investors and they were actually trying to help a company and make the game work, so they get their black mark taken off. They start being the scammer about, like, say 5 years later, a different project no one knows about. The people who are part of this have no idea about it, and then Steven comes in to save the day against them, and now he's the innocent one again. Maybe something that has nothing to do with video games, so no one here knows about them or knows who Steven the Sheriff is. I bet you that's what happens like 5 years down the line. I
Far
guarantee
more
it.
ruthless than the rest of them. Now, the single largest victim is this individual who I spoke about before, Robert Dawson, who invested approximately $80 million of his own capital into the failing company, a wealthy investor whom Karamanis introduced to Sheriff several years ago in Las Vegas. So that's potentially $80 million down the drain as a result of Steven Sheriff's actions, which, based on reports, seem to have been very calculated and intentional in many regards. But yeah, there's talk.
I don't believe he put 80 million into this. I believe that money is from the vaporware that they were selling. I don't believe they invested anything into it, because there's no paper trail of that. It's just a claim. I believe it's from the vaporware they were selling. The skins and the mounts and the blah 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 and the kingly god status of being a royal and all that crap. I believe that is what it was.
Here about Sheriff allegedly refusing to provide books and records, tax returns, or QuickBooks files for 9 years, which is indeed very suspicious. How he never attended or called for a single board meeting. There's information here about Steven Sheriff allegedly purchasing a mansion, and in 2024, when the original owner's mortgage came due, that was like a crisis point, and so he turned to his investors once more to basically bail him out of his debt. All the while in 2025, Intrepid Studios was hemorrhaging cash because operating expenses were at a whopping $2.5 million per month.
This doesn't make sense. This guy's reading it, but he's not quite got the advanced wisdom to see the flaws in even this, because there's so many different lies at play here. Anyone would get tangled in it. If he's been stealing all this money this time, right? If he stole 100 million for himself, right? Then how would he need bailed out for a $1 million mansion? You know, none of it makes sense. None of it makes sense.
And the game was only making $150,000 to $200,000 per month after it launched. So that's a monthly loss of around $2.3 million per month. Just a
if you listen to my rationale for it, it all makes sense.
Ridiculous burn rate. Even Dawson's massive capital infusions couldn't sustain the operation indefinitely.
Yeah, none of this is true. It's all a more it's a more myriad of lies. All of it is lies. Like every single piece of this is lies to mix people up even more. But none of it is true.
Because of how fast the burn rate was. The end result is investors talking about how there's all this money that was lost that they'll never get back, with some folks like Alcazin losing their entire life savings, with Karamanis admitting that he...
Don't worry, Sangy, we're talking about it. As soon as this is done, we'll finish this video and then we'll play games.
He's cried himself at night alongside Dawson because of the sheer amount of money that they lost and how betrayed they felt. But personally, the people I most feel for are the Kickstarter backers who invested not only money, but also their time and their emotional investment. And I also feel bad for the developers who genuinely believed in this project and who did their best to work under.
I don't feel bad for the developers. The backers, yes, even though they freaking crucified me when I tried to warn them. The devs should have taken control or spoke to the boss, or at least they should have saw the writing on the wall. They were part of the project, the Ender project. The game was like 5% done, if that. They should have been telling the public about this. Like, we've been doing this for 10 years, guys. We've not even got anything close. What he's shown you is a vertical slice lie, but did any of the developers say this? No. Did any of them take control and say whatever? No, because they were part of the lie as well. I'm not really giving the devs a pass on this either.
The circumstances that they were given, only for them to be laid off and also not be paid for their work, with a former developer here highlighting how none of the people who were laid off are receiving our final paychecks, the 60 days notice and pay outlined under the WARN Act, PTO
they're obviously not the masterminds, but they're complicit.
Or paid time off payouts or other compensation owed. They were especially screwed over. They were made to believe in this dream only for the rug to be As for Ashes of Creation itself, apparently Robert Dawson now controls the Ashes of Creation intellectual property, the investor who put in $80 million into this project. And apparently Dawson is exploring options to continue developing Ashes of Creation, but understandably, key technical staff allegedly refused to communicate with him, having been poisoned against investors by Sheriff, claimed Karamanos. Yeah, I mean, the people involved are also like multi-level marketers and like rich people who you cannot really trust. Like they're in it for the money. So it's hard for developers to like put their trust in this project ever again. How could they? And with all the negative press surrounding it, like there's absolutely no way anyone will want to touch this. I think there is no future for Ashes of Creation personally. I would also recommend checking out this article right here by massivelyoverpowered.com or massivelyoP.com that provides a summary of the first video that Nephis QS
Oh yeah, well let's finish this now.
published. It adds further context about this other investor, this Chinese company, iDream Sky, which was meant to invest $60 million over 5 years with a 35% revenue share in 2019, but then out of the blue, they just kind of pulled out, and it allegedly put Karamanos himself into debt and had Sheriff scrambling to.
Karamanos isn't in debt. He never paid anything into it. I guarantee it's the vapor where they sold the money.
Even fund payroll for developers for multiple months. The debt accrued by Intranis. Sit here and detail all of the two articles right here. Videos by Nephis QS 1 and 2, and also the most insane, one of the most egregious cases of fraud, if not the most egregious case of fraud I've ever witnessed in my time covering video games. That is, of course, assuming any of this is true. We haven't heard from Steven Sheriff yet, but I think his silence.
I mean, very wise to say if any of it is true, but I don't know why you're saying about Steven Sheriff. You're thinking he's going to say that, Sharif, you're thinking he's going to say that, like he's got the right story. First of all, let's just finish this.
Currently is speaking very loudly, and if he does have evidence to provide to contradict all the accusations against him, he has to present those sooner rather than later, because right now Steven Sheriff looks, I mean, like one of the most evil people to have ever touched the gaming industry. But that's my take. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.
Well, here is my thoughts. To my advice to everyone, do not touch anything about this game or pay for anything about it again, right? Karamanos guy didn't pay shit into it. First of all, this guy is an MLM pyramid scheme multi-marker as well, okay? You think this guy would not put himself on the paperwork of the board of directors after putting in 80 million? He had the power to do that, but he wasn't on the paperwork, giving himself the legal power. Why would he not do that? Because this is part of the scam. After Steven's kicked out, he wants to take on the game and pretend to be the benevolent guy to scam even more out of you for the next years, because these people will never stop, right? It's like he's going to be the next scammer, and then see when he's done, the other guy, the second guy, is going to say, actually, I was the benevolent one all along. I've taken it off of these two evil ones. I'll be the one to do it. And then they'll flip it around after years and years, and Steven will say, well, I was actually bought out, and Steven will take the role again. That's what they'll do. They will never stop. They want to keep this going on forever. They will never ever stop until they're forced to stop. Don't put any more money into this. It was just crap. None of them have ever put any money into it. You guys kickstarted it for 25 million. I made an estimation, by the way, that they probably made about 100 to 150 million from the vaporware. And what do we hear? Oh, apparently this investor has put in about 120 million. That seems to be about the amount they made on the vaporware. So is that money? That is that money. This Karamanos guy never invested anything into it. That is the vaporware you guys paid for. It is not his investment. They're all liars. They're all in it together. Do not trust any of them. Just abandon this project. I tried to tell you guys 6 years ago. I mean, I don't get much people are going to be on it now, but I know some people are still hanging on in desperation. Just leave it. I know it's painful. I know it's not fair. Honestly, one day I want to make an MMO. Maybe I'll make it, and I probably won't ask for investment. I'll probably just fucking try and be successful on this and then pay for it myself. Anyway, maybe one day I'll save us all and make a fucking D&D MMO, which I really want to. But until then, just leave this project. It's garbage. If you really want to play a good MMO, let me actually just say one last thing. If you want to play a good MMO like we were looking for, look up Arcade Classic, right? Because Arcade Classic is running Original Arcade. It's a private server. It's running Original Arcade before the pay to win came. It came the legendary holy grail of the games we all loved, we all played, and it was actually excellent. Like we all played it as the fucking holy grail, and it was fucking awesome. Well, there's a private realm of it that is not pay to win, and I've been playing it a long time, and it's fucking cool. It actually exists. It's not pay to win. It's like actually real. So just look up Arcade Classic and enjoy. Okay, guys, catch you later. Until next time.